The movie Sweet Girl is about a man, Ray Cooper, who is trying to get revenge for the death of his wife from cancer at the hands of a corrupt and indifferent pharmaceutical company. His daughter, named Rachel, tagged along with him despite all the dangerous escapades, only for the film to reveal a shocking revelation that all the killings and all the rageful vengeance was done by the daughter. If we were to keenly scan the behavior of the young girl, it would be speculated that due to the subway incident and the following situations that happened after that, that Rachel probably suffered from dissociative identity disorder, in which she created an image of her father and was blinded by the idea of revenge. This probably has connections to certain parts of the brain, such as the pons, which contains motor pathways from cerebrum that synapse to the cerebellum, which could have caused or affected uh, Rachel's vision, hearing, or probably her judgment, her thinking and reasoning and problem solving, and more. So, to fully understand, this video essay is going to tackle about more of it.
The forebrain is consists of diencephalon and telencephalon. Diencephalon is consists of thalamus, hypothalamus, epithalamus. Thalamus, which means inner chamber. Thalamus is responsible for maintenance of consciousness. Thalamus gray matter is called interthalamic adhesion. Thalamus have 7 nuclei, which includes anterior nucleus, responsible for emotion and memory, medial nuclei, responsible for cognition, knowing, and thinking. Thalamus transmit information from cerebellum and basal nuclei to motor area of cerebral cortex. Hypothalamus, which means other the chamber. Hypothalamus is important regulator of homeostasis. In hypothalamus, we have hypothalamic hormone, also known as the releasing hormone, and the last one is inhibiting hormone. Hypothalamus controls and integrates activities of autonomic nervous system. Epithalamus, which means above the chamber. Epithalamus is a small region superior and posterior to thalamus. Consists of pineal gland. Let us now proceed to telencephalon. Telencephalon is consists of right and left cerebral hemisphere. It is also composed of basal ganglia and cerebral cortex. Basal ganglia is collection of nuclei within cerebral hemisphere that responsible for voluntary movement.
The growing vertebrate of brain's midbrain is commonly known as mesencephalon. It is made up of tectum and tegmentum. The midbrain has a crucial role in the processing of auditory and visual information as well as in muscular movement, particularly eye movements. The midbrain is a relatively small region of the brain compared to the forebrain and hindbrain, which are the two neighboring developmental regions. The rear of the midbrain is made up of a tectum, which is made up of two paired grounded swelling called superior and inferior colliculi. The superior colliculus participates in number of reflexes, especially the tracking of the object, visual field, and takes input from the retina and visual cortex.
Hindbrain, melencephalon and metencephalon. The metencephalon and melencephalon are two regions of the hindbrain. It is the brain's most posterior region. The melencephalon or medulla is the brain stem's posterior portion. Not surprisingly, the medulla is made up primarily of tracts that carry signals between the rest of the brain and the body. The reticular formation is psychologically interesting part of the myelencephalon. It is a complex network of about 100 tiny nuclei that runs from the posterior boundary of the myelencephalon to the anterior boundary of the midbrain in the central col of the brainstem. As a result, referring to this collection of nuclei as a system can be deceptive. In general, the melencephalon plays no role in language production or comprehension. The metencephalon is home to many ascending and descending tracts, as well as portion of the reticular formation. This is structured from the form the pons, a bulge on the ventral surface of the brainstem. The pons connect to the cerebellum. It has millions of the neural fibers that cross the base of the brainstem and connect to areas of the cerebellum. The cerebellum is the large, convoluted structure on the dorsal surface of the brainstem. The cerebellum is an extremely complex structure that, despite being smaller than the cerebellar cortex, most likely contains even more neurons. It has long been thought to serve primarily as a motor coordination structure, but recent research indicates that it also serves as an important sensoromotor structure. Cerebellar damage impairs the ability to precisely control one's movement in order to adapt to changing circumstances. Although the metencephalon is important in the precise movement of the tongue and lips required for language production, it is a minor structure in the study of the language and the brain.
The complicated organ as the body command center is the brain, which delivers, receives, processes, and controls sensory information. The three main divisions of the brain are the forebrain, midbrain, and hindbrain, each of which has a distinct function. In the movie, Rachel went through trauma after losing her parents. For her tragedy, she blamed Biaframe, Simon Keeley, and all others who are connected to it. It could be speculated that due to her accident in the subway station and the tragedy that followed, Rachel developed dissociative identity disorder or DID. Dissociative identity disorder is a mental health condition. Someone with DID has multiple distinct personality. The various identity controls a person's behaviors at different times. The condition can cause memory loss, delusion, or depression. DID is usually caused by past trauma. When compared to the brain of a normal control, the hippocampus, amygdala, parietal structure involved in perception and self-awareness, and frontal structure involved in movement, execution, and fear learning all have reduced cortical and subcortical sizes in the DID patient. Disruption of and or discontinuity in the normal, subjective integration of one or more component of the psychological functioning, including but not limited to memory, identity, consciousness, perception, and motor controls, has been used to define dissociation. It includes involuntary intrusion of sensory, emotional, and cognitive information into conscious awareness. Despite inconsistency finding of the normal amygdala and hippocampal volumes compared to healthy controls, lower amygdala, hippocampus, and parahippocampus volume were observed in DID. The hippocampus has a high density of glucocorticoid receptors and it's extreme sensitive to a heightened release of a stress hormone cortisol. Hence, persistent traumatic stress may result in cell death in this area, and lower hippocampal volumes may be associated with early childhood trauma.
A growing body of neuroimaging research suggests that dissociative identity disorder is associated with changes in a number of brain regions involved in attention, memory, and emotions. Psychotherapy is a primary treatment for dissociative disorders, which involves taking about your disorder and relate issues with a mental health professional. Dissociative identity or DID causes are virtually always thought to be environmental and specifically related to early life trauma. When we look at what they all have in common, we can say that dissociation is a form of fight, flight, and freeze response. Dissociation can happen when we experience a threatening situation that we cannot escape from and also cannot resolve or change. Switching between headmates is usually involuntary and can cause a significant amount of distress. Some people with DID have more control over their switching than others. It is possible to continue to create alters and parts later on in life if the circumstances and the DID system necessitate it. A person with DID is likely to be highly intelligent, resourceful, and creative, and can help address the discord between identities. However, the study had several limitations, such as the comparison subject being significantly younger than dissociative identity disorder patients.
Rachel might have, or it was believed that she developed dissociative identity disorder after losing both her parents. Through Rachel's disorder, the movie relates to our topic since the disorder affects the smaller hippocampus and amygdala, as well as the parietal structures which are located in the forebrain. Amygdala and hippocampus are components of limbic system in diencephalon, which are responsible for behavioral and emotional responses. Although the midbrain is also affected by trauma through creating a scenario of greater arousal and intensity, it's still the forebrain who is responsible for or most likely to be affected by trauma by containing structures that is responsible for sensory and higher reasoning.